Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video, and today I will explain to you what likely could have happened if the Elf King, Daycam Hugin, wasn't such a vain, self-obsessed, vile and brutal narcissist, but instead a normal functioning member of Royal High Society instead. But before we're going to take a closer look at all of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel and say my thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's dive into the topic at hand. The Elven King, much like nearly every single Elven King in anime since Sword Abduction Online, has a rather interesting interpretation of what it means to be a good king. Normally, you would assume a good king would be nothing more than the first servant of his state. However, the Elf King is more akin to Louis XIV, who once declared, "L'État, c'est moi," meaning, I am the state. And this is more or less how he behaves, by, for example, kidnapping and violating the most potent godkin of the theocracy. This not only caused the birth of his only strong kid and future killer, but also initiated a war that would lasted for many decades, during which his people were gradually worn down and weakened. This was before Slane's grand attack broke through every single line of defense and laid siege to the very capital itself. He also pays no heed to his people's concerns and sufferings and thoughts. He is immensely powerful, and even Ainsul Gon was forced to treat him like a legendary Pokémon he absolutely had to capture, as opposed to an annoying Zubat. But despite his immense power, he still did not assist his people against the savage creatures plaguing the great forest of Ivasha. For example, he did not establish another fortified city, which he would be absolutely able to do so with his strength alone. And this is something that, historically speaking, kings actually have done. Instead, he sent hundreds, if not thousands, of his very own children to their deaths, in the hope that one of them might prove worthy and equal to his strength. I think even frogs do better take care of their kids than this Elf King does. But what if the Elf King wasn't an entirely self-centered, megalomaniacal and cruel despot, but rather someone with moderately social behavior? He wouldn't even have to be someone as smart and intriguing as Jerknev or Zanak, but if he were to behave somewhat like Draudilon Auriculus or King Raposa, showing genuine concern for his descendants and people, as well as using his long life to pursue long-term strategies, it would already make a significant difference in the power dynamic of the new world. And here's the point I like to emphasize. Slane theocracy, despite its humanocentric focus, seemingly didn't have anything against the elves originally. It's thought now that the elves are inferior and a threat to humanity, and coexistence with them is impossible. However, it seems that this wasn't always the case, and I say this because the theocracy and the cardinals have hinted at a time when an exception was possibly made for the elves, considering them equal to humans instead of being just another dangerous species that threaten humanity. And the reason for this can be traced down to their very own religion. The theocracy worships the 6 players who came to the New World 600 years ago, rescuing humanity from the very brink of disaster as gods. However, only 4 of the 6 players had human avatars, or in other words, the other 2 couldn't even be recognized as humans by the inhabitants of the New World. And one of them was actually an elf. So I assume that the elves were okay and somewhat treated as equal because of one of the deities of Slane was actually elvish in body, if not in mind and spirit. So the elves of Ivasha once lived in peace with Slayn. However, then the Elven King came to power and he kidnapped the then strongest godkin of Slayn, subjecting it to cruelty. Ultimately, this would cost him his own life, as his daughter Zesshi avenged her mother by grinding him to death under her boots. But if the Elven King were, as previously mentioned, a better man or elf, things would look differently today. Dakim Hugin is the son of one of the 8 great kings, and is even stronger than the powerful godkins of Slayn, with the exception of Zesshi. Now, imagine if this elf, instead of starting a war with Slayn in the hope that one of his children might inherit or awaken the same power that he has, had sought an alliance with Slayn instead. One perhaps sealed through marriage, as it was common in the Middle Ages. That would have been entirely possible at the time. And imagine he also received instructions on how to actually awaken godkins, which the theocracy, at least in part, should know how to do. And I say this because, while even if the many children of the Elven King seemingly did not inherit his very own power, and the Elf King was quite strong, it was clear that the young godkin, the leader of the Black Scripture, couldn't father hundreds or thousands of children. Instead, he is merely allowed to take another wife to preserve the bloodline of the 6 players, meaning he would succeed with much fewer numbers, where the Elf King had utterly failed. So either Slayn has dozens upon dozens of unawakened godkins walking around, which is entirely possible, or it's possible for a godkin to pass on their power to their offspring if guided correctly, even if the other is not a member of the players, or rather of the godkin species at all, if the other did not have a single drop of player blood inside of them. If Slayn knew the secret and had shared it with the Elven King, then Slayn would probably be now more or less capable of keeping Nezarec, I will put it this way, at least in check. Because the Elven King also carries player blood inside. As previously mentioned, his father was one of the 8 great kings, who brought the whole continent to heel. Thus, an alliance between Slayn and the Elven Kingdom would be an alliance between the 6 great gods' descendants and the 8 great kings' descendant. Here, Slayn would also need to put his past grudges aside and not hold the sins of his father against the son. Because if Zesshi, a half-elf, can reach level 100, and when she is already at level 88 during her elven teenage years, holding the title of Overlord of the New World, it's entirely possible that the other children of the Elf King could be just as strong as Zesshi in this timeline. And of course, more player blood means more godkins. And here's the thing I'm getting at, as the war between both nations has already existed for dozens upon dozens of years in the canon timeline. Slayn would have had plenty of time to father many godkins and raise them until they could procreate themselves, and the Elven King would still be alive over all of this, ensuring that his children too are awakened. Additionally, the Elf King would naturally include his wife in the Elf Kingdom and maintain and spread his bloodline that way. This means that his own realm would host a godkin population all by itself. And as it would be possible for these godkins and their kids to marry human women and men as well, or be married to other godkins of the theocracy, and since humans have a shorter lifespan but a higher fertility rate compared to elves, after a couple dozen years, there would be probably enough godkins walking around in Slayn alone to fully recruit the Black Scripture from it, while also putting together a similar force in the Elf Kingdom, entirely made up of the Elf King's own awakened offspring as well. And how all of this would have worked out, and how such humble beginnings could eventually threaten the Great Tomb of Nezarec, will be part of the second part of this little video series, But for today, that's pretty much it. And I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Other Daddy Other, ASK, Bad Guy Yi, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Love Razor, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Oh Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shangox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. And anyway, have a nice day, and I see you all again soon on my next video.